Today's guest, Neil Ferrier, and I share many mutual friends and acquaintances, and we've exchanged several DMs, yet we'd somehow never met prior to this recording. Early during COVID, I reached out to Neil, and though it took 2+ years, I was thrilled we made this happen. We chat about his industrial design firm, Discommon, as well as his watch brand, Block, let alone so much of his insights he has as a founder and entrepreneur. I often thank guests for their candor, and this chat is no exception. As I edited this, I honestly got lost in the conversation as though I was hearing it for the first time, and certainly felt lucky, quite frankly, to be hearing and understanding the depths of what Neil has to say. Not to be greedy, but I really hope to have a round 2 later down the line, even though I'm thoroughly excited to share this conversation. Let's get to it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard H Podcast. Neil, what's happening?
How are you?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can. I'm not podcast savvy to the point where I've got headphones and a proper mic and stuff like that. So you'll end up getting some bounced around sound. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's totally fine. I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's obviously been kind of a long time coming from my perspective, at least.
Probably a year in the waiting or making. So I'm
Yeah,
sorry
man.
it's taken so long.
No, all good. No, that's far from a complaint. It's just an aspiration, and I'm looking forward to the chat is all.
There's been new grey hairs probably since we started speaking, so that's a reflection of the work, I think.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I've had a wife away for 3 days on a girls' business brainstorming trip. So I've been in survival mode with small humans plus work. So been a, the slightly like shocked face of me is the survival mechanism of I just handed them back over and I'm like, okay, go back to the other life of work.
Right, right. What is the shoe behind you? Is that the one you guys created?
Yeah, we've
Oh yeah, there it is.
that's the Boa Jordan. So this is a black toe Jordan. I thought the other one's somewhere in a closet. We had an event here last week, so I sort of panic hid everything that was valuable, and have yet to put everything back out, but we're getting there.
Right, right. So is this the office or is this your house?
No, this is office. So I don't. This is a big camera, so I can't easily turn you around. But I'm basically glassed in. The GT4 is at service right now, but normally a race car sits kind of on the glass side of my office, and then there's a roll-up door. And then these are this was my bit of mischief in the office. So these are like floor to ceiling built in.
Right.
Um, work. This is the secret door through to the where I have the 3D printers and stuff like that. So I wanted one of the closets. It was one of these self-serving things of always wanting to own a secret room and a secret door. So
Oh, that's amazing. I. So what's funny is my office here in the house backs up to my wife's walk-in closet. And I thought one day when I can afford to get my business out of the house is make this a speakeasy that you enter through her closet.
or just take up 2 feet of your wife's closet with a little secret cupboard or something like that that she doesn't actually know about it. But I'm pretty sure you'd probably get caught.
Right. Oh man, that'd be funny. But yeah, so really, I don't know if you listen to the show or not, and if not, no big deal. But they jump around a lot.
Yeah, I've only listened to two friends as ones. I don't listen to many podcasts. Actually, only the Dak Shepard armchair expert stuff on long drives.
Right.
So no, just but hit me with anything. I'm just game to chat.
Well, yeah, yeah. Likewise. So I know that you're a bit from a golfing background or a golf centric sort of background, which I don't think many people know. But you and I have exchanged some DMs regarding putters. But I wanna ask you a little bit about like what your affiliation is to golf.
Yeah, so like I grew up I'm Scottish, obviously. I grew up in a quintessential golf family. Like it's the most Scottish cliched thing. So my dad started working at Gleneagles when I think he was probably 20.
Wow.
Started working in the pro shop there. He went on to be director of marketing and various other things, but they ended up starting an internal company called Gleneagles Golf Development. And he built what's now called the PGA Centenary Course, but it was called the Monarchs Course, which has held the Ryder Cup. Um,
Wow.
and he built that with Jack Nicklaus. They were literally a company that developed golf courses under the Gleneagles brand name. And so I grew up with a dad that was traveling a lot to wild things, golf practice range in Cape Town, South Africa, and Soweto to do stuff for underprivileged kids. Nepal to do what was, I don't think it ever became a golf course, but Nepal to do possibly a project. He was summoned by Fidel Castro at one point in time to go to Cuba to do a golf course for Fidel.
Wow.
Felt about that one. He was all over, but they uh, ended up being, when it was Gleneagles Golf Developments, the head greenkeeper at Gleneagles, a guy called Jimmy Kidd. His son was in university at the time to do golf course architecture. His name is David Kidd. And David Kidd's now arguably one of the best golf course architects in the world. Commands a fair, hefty price for a brilliant golf course. But Dad pitched a guy, Mike Kaiser, in Chicago to do a golf course in Bandon Dunes. And they did Bandon Dunes. And my dad said, listen, there's this kid that is coming out. He's pretty good. He's kind of reworked some of the holes at Gleneagles, and it looks like he's going to be a pretty good golf course architect. We should use him. So that was David Kidd's really first sort of flagship course, and now one of the best golf course architects in the world. And I grew up, it was only a couple of years ago I realized I sort of accidentally remade my dad's company, but for me.
Oh, right.
He was a go-to in the golf world for getting shit done.
Yeah.
He knew how to understand the land. He wasn't an architect, but he knew he knew the people, he knew the dynamics of golf. He'd run golf courses, run a hotel, and a big one at that. And what he had essentially developed was a consultancy in the golf world. It eventually became Ferrier Golf Developments. Gleneagles was bought out a number of different times, eventually by Diageo, and they didn't want these kind of like offshoots doing things under different brand names.
Sure.
They also had a company called Ryder Cup Publishing, so they did all the Ryder Cup magazines, scorecards, course guides, all sorts of things. So I grew up adoring my dad's stories and his travel and the people that he would get to meet and just all of these wild things. We'd have like Jackie Stewart or Jack Nicklaus calling our house to just get to my dad in this tiny little 2,000 square foot bungalow in this town of 4,000 people in Scotland. Like, it's Jack Nicklaus. Your dad want to go play golf this afternoon?
Oh my God.
He once was not allowed to do that by my mum because we were going away on a caravan holiday. And he still had to cut the grass before we were leaving on a caravan holiday. Jack Nicklaus wanted to play golf when we were going to be on our 2-week holiday that my dad took a year. My mum was like, yeah, no, you're dead if you don't go on our holiday.
Holy shit. Okay, so
Out and around with Jack Nicklaus, which is pretty monumental.
right, was that going to be played at Gleneagles then?
It would have been, yeah. He was coming in for something, and my dad was. I remember it like it was yesterday. My dad, because I was a good golfer. I stopped. I did a different sport during college. I was a low handicap by the time I was 13. And my dad was cutting the grass outside. It was a wee house, like it was just, we're a small Scottish town, and I just picked up the phone, and we used to answer with our phone number, so I just picked it up 663-738. And it was, hello, oh, is that Ian's son? Could you let him know it's Jack Nicklaus on the phone? And just wanted to chat to him. So that was pretty wild.
Wow.
I met Jack at a Rolex auction in New York for Phillips about 2 years ago, and shook his hand at some point in time. I was not bidding on his watch.
Right.
Listen, I don't know if you remember, but he built a golf course with my dad, and he lit up, and it was so fun seeing that effect. Like people, Sir Jackie Stewart just saw in Bahrain at the Formula One, and we semi-recognized each other. And I said, "I'm Ian Ferrier's son." And again, just the face lights up. And of course, later on, I find out that the Crown Prince of Bahrain's head of security was also like knew my dad through golf stuff and Jackie, and I'm like, man, I'm just going to be in this sort of like golf shadow forever. So it's funny. Sorry, it was a long side.
Yeah, what better way to start our conversation than make you feel like you're in a shadow?
But it's really fun because it made me like you. I tell stories. I went to business dinners with my dad. I saw him tell stories. I saw him engage people, and I think we tell stories now creatively,
Mm,
through product development and stuff like that. But it
yeah.
was funny looking back and realized I just made a product based version of my dad's company by mistake, and
Yeah.
didn't go into the family business.
Wow, that's interesting. So there's a couple things there. I can't decide where I want to
That
go
wasn't
because
enough
there's
random shit to start with.
no. Well, that's what these things are all about, like I said. So like, okay, so first of all, I'd heard there's a rumor that Bandon's opening in the property in Colorado, and I don't know.
My dad will know that, but I don't know. I'm so my soul is detached from golf,
Mm,
horrifically ADHD. And I played golf because my family played golf. I had phenomenal golf coaches from the age of like 3 or 4 because they were just at Gleneagles.
right.
But I never loved it I loved it from a family standpoint, but I don't follow or love the game anymore because it was torture for me. I would be 3 over par, 15 years old, and I can't even I don't know if I can cuss on this. I cuss a lot,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Same.
I'm just having this fucking torture walking down the ninth hole. It's like, okay, so if I get it on in two, and then I can putt in three, and then ooh, bird. And like, and I just, it was this really like, it was very difficult for my soul to ever be at peace. So now I enjoy golf when it's drinks and friends and just having fun. So I don't follow anything to do with it, abandon or otherwise, unfortunately.
Okay, so you do get out though.
Uh 4 times a year.
Right.
Something like that. And probably still have a frustratingly good golf swing for most people because it was instilled at the age of 2 or 3 or 4, and
Right.
played in a Navy SEAL charity tournament. No, it was a few years ago now, but I'd done the whole like thing of like, guys, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't practiced and just off a plane,
Yeah.
um, and it was a Half Moon Bay.
Wow.
I'm going to get this will be terrible for people who know Half Moon Bay, but I'm going to say it was like driver 3 wood 6-inch putt for eagle on the first hole. And as a team, group, we were the chief master sergeant, or I think it's chief master sergeant of the Navy SEALs, and I just told everybody that I was going to fuck everything up,
Right.
and I did that, and so they're all calling bullshit on me to begin with, and then I shanked my tee shot off of the second hole, so I evened
Oh,
the.
as you do. Yeah, 100%.
That's my golf game right now. It's either exemplary
Pure,
or
yeah.
nothing.
Right. That's hilarious. Um, well, you obviously started and own a company brand, producer, manufacturer, what have you, called Discommon. It's, I believe, what, 8 years old now or so?
Yeah, it's funny. A friend just asked for some help with a hickory handle for this really, really innovative axe thing that they're making. And I had to look back through to some sledgehammers that we made at one point in time. And I don't really know when it started because I was
Hmm.
at Oakley and I was doing bits and pieces of consulting work. I had a blog called Discommon. And then now one of the guys that works for me, Jeremy, and I sort of partnered on this Discommon Goods thing, and it was incorporated 2015, but it's somewhere in and around there. We were always tinkering on things.
Well, when you spend the majority of your time making cool shit, what's the hardest part?
Selling it.
Really?
Well, really, really, really funnily, that's actually quite a genuine answer. So I own the majority of this children's watch company, Block, and I've realized through the process of doing it, like I just want to stay in my lane. We make stuff very, very well.
Yeah.
I don't want to understand SEO and ad spend and CAC and I don't even want to understand ROI. Like I just want to make great stuff real.
Yeah.
I don't like the selling parts of it. We were about to launch briefcase, duffel bag, backpack on pre-sale. I'm frustrated we're doing pre-sale, but I also don't want to spend 600 hides of leather and sit on an inventory of X hundred, $1,000 duffel bags, just like knowing that I don't know how to sell per se, which is maybe a strange thing to say. But I'm so much more comfortable. So I guess for people that don't know our business, on surface, we're an industrial design firm, but as an ID firm, we say that we're kind of a little SWAT team, that we take well-defined problems and we solve them beautifully. Usually that's through product design. It's usually through making something. But if that company, brand, whatever, understands their problem, like, hey, listen, we don't know how to speak to our consumer, they have a something something X problem, and we think we could solve that with this. We figure out how to develop that. Now that might involve video assets, it might involve logos or whatever, but generally it's anchored on a product design. Um, and more than a normal ID firm, we will often be all the way to like a factory, because Jeremy and myself have spent, a career making stuff real for Oakley and other companies. So we're very comfortable in that. Like, if you need to, I don't know why that there's an Oakley Christmas ornament sitting on my desk. I don't know why, but if you need to make the thing real, I know what this die cast tool looks like. I know what the zinc alloy is. We understand the finishes that you can do. I know, like we help people make the thing real versus handing over a beautiful thing. And we paralleled that by doing these Discommon goods, which basically allow us to just execute stuff that's stuck in our heads, if you like.
Sure. Well, what don't you like about pre-sale? Because there's very rarely any waste from a manufacturing standpoint as well.
I don't mind it, other than I think I have a constant fear of failure or probably wanting to be liked.
Mm.
Um, Oakley was a I worked at Oakley, the sunglass company, for 11 years. I look back very, very fondly on my project experiences, less so on my interactions. It was a pretty rough place to work from a standpoint of everybody was an alpha, everybody was expected to be on their A game, and you were never good enough.
Hmm.
And I think I look now with this eye of not wanting to disappoint, and a pre-sale seems maybe like you copped out a little bit, like you didn't fully commit.
Hmm.
Whereas there's another part, like there's the angel and the devil. There's another part of me that's like, fuck you, we didn't fully commit. There's fucking 16 prototypes all throughout these cupboards. We've been making them for 4.5 years, trying to figure out how to make this backpack perfect. I've taken it around the world twice. I just don't want to spend $85,000 on inventory.
Yeah, no, no, I totally understand that mentality 100%. Well, since you have taken it around the world twice and you have developed it, have there been any changes that you've made to it?
Oh yeah, I drive everybody nuts. I mean, we made it 20% smaller. It's a small backpack now. I think it would freak people out, some folks, how small it was, in that, its dimension is not, this is not a backpacking backpack.
Right.
I'm going on a commute for one day, or I'm doing one night somewhere. I may end up staying overnight at this whatever after this event, and it was done to really solve a specific problem. Which, if you arc back to our first ever product, the watch wallet that we did, was just solving a problem for me. I really like vintage watches, and I just wanted a wee thing to travel with where I could carry a couple vintage watches, my passport, my tickets, and just know that everything was safe. So I've just solved stuff for us.
I don't even have this question in mind until right now. How do you go about setting your prices? Because with somebody like yourself, I mean, standard H included, prototyping is so expensive. And so when you're somebody like yourself or even me, where like nothing's ever good enough and you're only going to see what's wrong with it and how do I improve this and how does this get better? Next thing you know, you might have, I don't know, three, four, seven prototypes potentially. I mean, I'm exaggerating to a certain degree here, but like, how do you set your prices and how does that mash up with your R&D costs? Do you absorb those or are those ancillary?
So it's weird. The question gave me a bit of anxiety because
Sorry.
no, 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 because of hopefully what's maybe an interesting answer. We've never been we've never been a very serious company
Mm.
from a standpoint of this common goods making revenue. When I
Right.
have friends tell me that they want to start a company, I'm going to start a wallet company. I want to make these bottle openers or something like that. I get this huge pang of like, you're fucking insane. Like, you're not going to live. You're going to be on breadcrumbs. Because we made building money, employee money, that type of thing by selling tens of thousands of things that we manufacture to medical companies by doing, I can't say the name of the company, but if somebody buys 100 duffel bags because they want to gift them to their clients, well, that makes it a mute point on whether you need to sell 24 or 46 duffel bags. But because of that, also, I would say that if you looked at our P&L for Discommon Goods, it would be comical. Like, Jeremy and I basically built it originally to just like, if we get money in, we'll spend it on making cool shit and we'll sell that. And then if we get money in, we'll make more cool shit with it, because it was always our device for marketing. Um, so the nice thing about having the experience that we have is we don't piss away too much money prototyping. We 3D print a ton of stuff.
Mm.
We've got a beer bottle opener going into production right now that, probably printed 25 different versions of. But I haven't cut any tools. We haven't made any tooling mistakes. I don't have 40 CNC machine titanium things that, run up a 9 grand bill or anything. The leather bags have been the most intimidating thing we've ever done, because every time you do a prototype or you make a change to a pattern, you're at $1,000 a prototype and $1,800 in tools, Thompson press tools that punch out parts. And I would venture a guess that the leather goods business, like we when we pre-launch these, we have to sell a lot, because I've fucked around far too much with that, trying to make it right for me.
Yeah.
Um, but you're also asking that question at a time when we believe, as an ID firm, we've essentially never not delivered. Like, we've really upended certain companies that we've worked with, from getting them to production months faster than they thought, all of those things. And the word of mouth is always good. But we don't have a list of people waiting to do ID work with us.
Mm.
Uh, it's a scary economical time right now. And also, sorry, we do have a list, but a contract seems to, on average, take 6 months to sign, because there are negotiations, there are board sign-offs, there are, did we budget this project? If you're talking like about a large structured project,
Sure.
we're working with one of the main three shoe companies right now on some really dope innovation stuff. And that contract, from a C level, somebody said, we're doing this. That took 7.5 months to get that contract signed.
Right.
So it's pretty recently that we've decided that we're going to go full bore back into Discommon Goods, the leather goods, bottle openers, doing a divot tool. There's some more sculpture work coming up.
I'm excited to see this divot tool because I've had one in my mind for a number of years, but I don't have your accessibility for, machinery. Because I already made my little shift knob, my desk ornament.
Which is a very good one, yes.
Well, thanks, but it was a pain in the fucking ass. Like, it was just like,
I got 27 walnut 991.2 GT3 shift knobs through there, fully machined in walnut with a Mark forged carbon insert that does the snap on to that shaft in the 991.2. Never got the tolerance quite right on that shaft. Sold the GT3. There's your R&D cost. I don't even want to remember how much we spent on that, but I've got a bucket load of walnut GT3 shift knobs. They're gorgeous, but we just never went forward with it.
so how much would one of those cost for me to put one on my shelf?
$6,500. I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever the machining run cost. No, I think we were going to do them at $300 or something like that.
Yeah.
I won't interrupt the thing and go get it, but we're
No,
we're
it's all good.
working on a bar stool right now. I've got 3 or 4 printed versions of a bar stool. Gosh, I hope we take that to production. But sometimes we're just doing this stuff to get out of our soul.
Yeah, I call it creative vomit.
Yep. So you asked about a good tender point, because we don't treat it like a very serious business.
Hmm.
Whereas, like with the watch company, I know every dollar that has gone to the wrong place or to the right place.
Yeah.
But with our stuff, we've all, me, Kev, Jeremy, the three main folks that work with Discommon, have all gotten an awful lot of joy out of just executing some of this shit.
Yeah, no, 100%. You've mentioned Oakley a couple times. What was something you kind of took from your experience there that you might use every day?
Um, well, this is a random one. It's maybe a little bit too philosophical, but I really, really try to congratulate people when I know they've put effort in,
Mm,
because we didn't get that there. And like that's almost like a childlike comment in a sense. But I joke with Kev, like his love language is that
words of affirmation.
he wants to be seen that because he works extremely hard.
Yeah.
And it's really satisfying for me to remember to say, like, I see that.
Yeah.
And Oakley didn't do that. They were just always ready for more from you. Um, but I also, my first boss there, have only positive things to say about. His name was Carlos, and he really taught me on one of my business cards. Now he never cussed, but my business card says "fuck mediocrity" because
Yeah.
he just didn't let me cut corners ever. And whenever we make little mistakes, or like we had a thing with a medical product where not enough torque was put on a screw, we had to do a mini recall, we had to rework all the stuff. And I just thought, fucking Carlos would not have let this happen, you know?
Right.
That's nice. He's left kind of like a fire in that in me.
Right. Well, that's great. Because as somebody who doesn't know you well, you you come across as like overtly positive, generally speaking, just like as an aura about you, which I find to be very gratifying to witness, either be it on your Q and A's or stuff that you've done in the past over, IG and, um, but you don't beat around the bush either, which I definitely appreciate. Um,
Yeah,
what
I don't have, you do get more jaded. I'm going to be 40 this year.
welcome.
I did, I did make a thing, with the help of phenomenal friends and partners and stuff like that. But like, I started a company with, I mean, I probably had 3.5 grand, something like that, maybe when I started this. And it was terrifying looking back on it. And then when I had my daughter, was basically when I left Oakley. So double down that terror.
Right.
And I am extremely positive about the fact that, we just hosted this first event in our headquarters here. There's 3 or 4 other companies that rent space in this. And mornings and stuff, I get to walk in and be like, son of a bitch, like we did this.
This is
But
cool. Yeah.
I will say that positivity is mediated or balanced by constant terror, and imposter syndrome, which is very common for an entrepreneur, and also sometimes disbelief of like,
Mm,
we call ourselves a SWAT team. We're a little team, right?
right.
Could have chosen to grow to be a 25-person design firm. That would have been fine. It's not us.
Easy. Yeah.
But I sometimes sit with the disbelief of like Ryobi, TTI Industries is in Greenville. Like we have fucking delivered over and over and over and over again for clients. Why are not more people knocking at the door,
Mm,
And that's the insecurity of an entrepreneur. And Justina, who does all of our PR, would be like, because they don't do that, Neil. Knock on their fucking door. Show them what you do. Tell me, do you advertise? Where are you? Why should they know you exist? Okay, I get all of those things, but I am overtly positive, but it is blanketing certain um, demons of like at some point in time, what we've done has to be enough.
right.
Um, Later on this year, you'll see an almost 50-foot long sculpture that has taken the last 5 years that has gone into one of the singular icons of a hotel in the world. And we joke, we're like, maybe that'll be enough. Maybe us being the size of a wallet all the way to a 50-foot CNC machine sculpture that's in the restaurant of a hotel in their ceiling might be enough.
Unbelievable.
But we have these conversations. A conversation with a really good friend at Quest at Facebook, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, I'd fucking love to work with you. We'd never be allowed to hire you. You're a 4-person company. Like, I know what you can do, but we're simply not even allowed to engage with a company that's less than 50 people. Doesn't matter about your output, but like, we just can't do that for liability reasons." And I'm like, I'm the least liable possible because we can't fail. We're too small to fail.
Well, there's fewer people among that liability. I don't even understand what that, how's that,
I think the with greater number of people, you assume guaranteed bandwidth, which means deliverables are on time or people are
I
not
see.
stretched. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Let's be more capable. But so backing up, thank you. Yeah, I'm positive most of the time. I get to walk in. Um, I'll disappear this evening, probably rip a car up in the mountains and have a blast. And you know, like I'm very positive about things as well. But there are times when I have quite dark, when will it be enough thoughts? You know, like when will us performing at 11 out of 10 put us at the seat of the table with everybody? I know that's a bold statement, but like why aren't the and there's a balance. Like I don't know if this is going to sound egotistical because it's really not driven by ego. It's driven by analyzing our performance.
Right. Quality.
It's driven actually by my pride in my employees.
Sure.
So in my mind, I'm like, why aren't the other two big sneaker firms chasing after us? Because look at what we're doing for this one, right?
So just to clarify then, when you say enough, you're not talking about monetary value. You're talking about good enough to get these bigger contracts? Or is it a money thing? Because the money thing I totally get. Because my best friend and I talk about this all the time, where it's like, okay, you're expected to outdo last year by 3% or 4%, and maybe we're down 7%. Oh shit. Well, now we need to recoup that plus the 3% we would have had. And then if it's 3% on top of 3% times 30 freaking years of doing the same thing every day, A, that's not realistic. And B, when is it enough? Like, how much fucking money do you need?
I'll give you I'm going to twist that a little bit. I don't know that it's
Sure.
money, but I don't know that it's pride, but I don't know that it's whatever.
Mm,
It's the amount of grinding that we have to do to see progress happen with a potential client that is
sure.
painful.
Yeah.
And then when I compare that to watching a friend, so this is actually going to turn into a curious discussion in a sense about the value of product design, product development versus marketing, and
Right.
budgets that are applied to both. So I can watch, and I did 4 weeks ago. You know, a friend he sat with about $390,000 budget, I think it was, to knock out this one event to launch something, and
Wow.
he spent stuff on absurd shit. 75 grand on a something something. We'll get a quick, you know, CGI thing done for 35K that'll play on the screen, blah, blah, blah. And we can have a negotiation about something that, you know, be a design project for a fundamentally game-changing item that will be, let's say, $150,000. It'll take 6 months. It'll take 7 months to sign for the 6 month project.
Right.
Somewhere along the meantime, we'll get a random VC firm come, ask us for a something that we make or whatever, 100 duffel bags or something like that, and suddenly make the revenue of the thing that we just got gray hairs on for 7 months in one email.
Right.
And you could criticize that as just like, well, dude, that's your business model. Then get into corporate gifting or get into something. I understand that, but we love creating, we love design, and love solving problems. I was naive to realize that like it is a very big deal for somebody to decide to develop a new product. And usually the worst culprits in our experience are the largest, most exciting brands because they're crippled in layers of budgets. They never have the money for something. I mean, we were doing an accessory for a camera company. They wanted a high volume, mass producible thing. We agreed to manufacture for them. We did all the work. So I'm just making sure I don't like say anything inappropriate.
Yeah, I get it.
And they came back and we were ready to go. And they said, "Sweet, we'd like 200 to begin with." And I was like, "What? Like 200 watts?" And they were like, "Of a piece." I said, "It's an injection mold. Like we haven't even started out the knit lines, and we've run 500 parts. You know,
Right.
that's a bit of an exaggeration, but like you run through a shitload of plastic parts to fully dial in your shooting of the plastic into a mold." oh, we never buy more than 250 of any accessory you work on. Yeah, but you asked us for mass production, like, and an injection mold so that you could have low cost. Um, I've gone a bit off topic there, but my point was just at some point in time, I wonder when it's enough that we will be approached proactively with a brief, with something that somebody wants done, that they're clear on what they want done and they're ready to do it. And I believe probably if we were a larger design firm that advertised more, that went to, I don't know, design award shows, that did all of those things, like if we played the game better, people would be Googling and they would be doing, all of those things. And we've accidentally almost been too much of an inside secret.
So the enough to me, and forgive me for putting words in your mouth, but it sounds like you are seeking out the level of respect you think you deserve.
That's a fair way of saying it. Or just I would like a business day to be more fluid because people know that we can execute and they come to us because they want us to execute.
I I'm no different.
Yeah, business day being 80% explaining to somebody how we can execute. And I'm like, how many times am I gonna have to explain that we can execute when we execute?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's if you look at Shift, this the electric shoe company that we it was a project that we considered running from because I thought their aspirations were so insane. But we held hands with them. We did the industrial design. We worked with them all through the molding, the injection molding, the assembly of the shoe, not the mechanics of making it work, but we had to wrap around all of that. And we delivered them, Pardon Company, who are next door to me, these two kids that I work with, and 270,000 Instagram followers later, 500,000 TikTok followers, 150 million views, and a completely successful Kickstarter. These damn electric shoes worked. Like, we delivered.
Wow.
There's your package.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and so that's, if anything, it's more sadness for my guys because sometimes they see the stress from me of like the 7 months of questioning. Like, well, I don't know. They said they were going to sign the contract yesterday. Then they said they were going to sign the contract a month ago, and they'll get on another. We'll get on a group Zoom, and my guys will be like, do you know if we're doing the X thing yet? I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm sorry.
Right. Would you say that that's your number one stressor is the bits of I don't know because it's out of your control? Or is there something in particular that like
Which is
stresses you
probably
out?
why now we're doing such a joint and focusing on making shit real again because it's the
Yeah.
one thing we do know.
Yeah.
I know that we'll make that divot tool. I know that we can make the bags. I know that if we do furniture, we can make it. And a very, very large furniture company that we just spoke to, I said, I don't even want to do a design project for you guys. If you want something, we'll do all the design on spec and we'll take a percentage of sales. But that puts the problem in your court. So tell us what it is you want. But if you want it, you need to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I don't even want to get into a discussion about an $85,000 design fee or 100 and something thousand. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, if you would like something to be real, we'll design it. And then if it works, then we'll recoup it. But let's avoid the 7 months of dancing. And if you need something, tell us what it is. We'll kill it.
You know, I had this question for later for you, but I'll jump to it now just because of what you just said. When you try to put a value on creativity, it seems impossible, right? Like the actual, because your design consult could be 85 grand or what have you, whatever you were saying.
It could
How,
be 40, it could be 15 as a design student that says they could do it freelance. It could be 40 as a starting company. It could be $500,000 with 7% of sales if you're Mark Newson.
so are those values placed on reputation alone normally? Like, how do you get to those numbers in your shoes?
Reputation and or fame. So like I did a hip flash project with Newson for Macallan when I was just a consultant, so I was doing product dev. And they went to him because they wanted his name.
Mm,
Like they didn't care about anything else. The design was fine. It made it difficult for me to develop it. But it was a lot of money up front. And it was a lot of percentage of sales.
Well, those are two huge names. How did you get into that triangle?
We'd done two or three crazy projects for the Macallan already, where we brought the things to market. Both of those hip flasks and a number of other things.
Sure.
And Ken Greer, who's pretty fundamental in me even having a product development company, it, it, he was, I don't know his title, but it's called head of marketing for. There's a suite of brands in the Edrington group. One of them's Macallan, one of them's Highland Park, and we did a lot of projects for them. But I wasn't designing at the time. We were a product development consultancy, and so when they decided to use a big name designer, um, I was part of the project to make sure that the thing would be able to get made real because that's what I was good at.
That's cool.
And so that's brought in purely for the name because that will help carry this thing, get press, whatever. I would say that the other reason that a firm commands a large amount of money is safety. Because if you consider a middle manager in a large brand going to his boss to say that I need to do something, well, that middle manager just wants to know that his boss trusts him. So it's a lot easier for him to go with Frog Design or Teams or a huge firm. They just know he's going to deliver because they're buying safety and they'll pay a lot of money for that so that they can essentially sleep at night knowing that one of these icons did it.
Sure.
Um, which, again, the rebellious little shit in me is like, dude, if I want to keep eating, we have to deliver.
Yeah.
We're as safe as it can possibly be because we are going to bleed to deliver.
Do you
Because the one that don't, then we're fucked.
Yeah. Do you approach client work in different ways than you do your own? Like your tumblers, for example, come to mind. Like that's your product.
I think something that I'm quite proud of is our ability to almost like out of body morph into that company and work with them.
Hmm.
Like this furniture company that we're talking with, like, they were a little trepidation, trepidation,
Trepidatious.
yeah, is that a word? I don't know. They were a bit worried about working with us because all the stuff we do. They knew all the bone lines and arcs and things that we're kind of known for.
Yeah.
Would wrap up machine time and all of those things an awful lot. And I was like, it's okay. We don't need to do us. I need to understand what you want to achieve, and we'll design for that. And one of our more successful products was a pretty simple carrying case for Butterfly, this medical company, where um, the guy, his name was Matt, who was our head of product. When we were first interviewed to work with them as a design firm, he's like, yo, sorry, I gotta ask, like, what do we want from you guys? Like, I've seen the Discommon good stuff. He's like, we ain't machining cases and doing titanium, this and that. And I was like, listen, man, I have slept beside injection mold machines in Taiwan and China and wherever, like making $1.10 Oakley stems. I get it. It's okay. Discommon goods isn't Butterfly. We will absorb into what you do, and we injection molded poly PCABS blend, plastic accessories for them by the thousand.
Hmm.
So I think I always hope that Discommon goods would let people have the solace to know that we were. If I went into a conversation with Toomey right now, I could talk leather, and I could understand challenges because we've made leather stuff.
Yeah.
There's a VC firm that we're working with right now where it's really just enjoyable to talk about the fact that really no matter what our cost is, the potential of money that they have to make from the thing that they're working on, if we can get them to market 5 months faster than somebody else, 4 months, 3 months faster than somebody else, like
Right.
the fees null and void.
Sure.
So I think also, sorry, that was the third thing I was going to say is like, why do you employ a product development firm or a product design firm? Well, one, because you might want a dope product. But if you're doing product development as well, that means you want to get to market successfully. Now, if that takes 2 years or 1 year, there's a difference between a year's revenue.
Right.
So I think sometimes design-based people live in this whole world of like, you should spend money on design. Design's so important. It's not, market is more important than marketing, blah, blah, blah. I would rather say you should spend money on speed. Like the design's guaranteed. If you work with a good design firm, like they'll do dope shit for you.
Yeah, but you want to make stuff real.
But if you do it with a firm that the first five concepts they give you, they're all manufactured. I'm not saying we're unique in this. There's phenomenal firms that do this. But the
Sure.
first five concepts that they give you are actually considered because the principal's an engineer or because there's engineers in the team and you actually know how to make it. Well, now you're two rounds of fuckery thrown out the window because you've
Yeah.
avoided the whole first 2 months where you're like, well, shit, how do we make this? Like this is a beautiful shape, but there's no thickness here for an actuator. That type of thing, you've avoided it. That's actually off of a real story. I was doing product development for Macallan and we got handed a project, and I won't name them, by a mammoth London firm. They got paid their money. They handed it over their design. They'd done a 3D printed prototype. It was all beautiful. Everybody oohed and ahed. I was the failure because I couldn't make it real. But they had made a sphere, a circle that was about half an inch thick that had a post that had to move, and it was for an automatic ice ball machine. And this post had to be able to move 6 inches up, 5 inches up, but there was nothing there. There was the frame of a circle.
Oh,
I couldn't make, like, I couldn't bend the universe.
right.
So this thing that they were a massive success for was a total failure because I couldn't. They got to lob it over the fence and be done because they were just a design firm,
Right.
but it wasn't real.
Right. Wow.
There's maybe your third metric. I think some iconic design firms charge massive fees because they deliver. Now, if they can get somebody to revenue faster,
Hmm.
uh, then I don't think
Wait,
Butterfly ever blinked at our fees because they made a lot of money selling accessories that we handed them in a package with a barcode on it that got sold on the website.
so what percentage of the products do you make or at least work on, whether or not it's development, whatever? Like what percentage are you actually manufacturing? It's pretty low, I guess.
Well, there's been a couple years where it's been the majority of what we're doing, but in general, um, I'm just counting through sort of the last projects. By contract, we manufactured this sculpture. That was 4.5 years of work. I mean, that pretty much eclipses anything else that we'd ever done.
Wow.
Um, but then the last three before that, we were an ID firm in development. But then before that, two of them we manufactured. One of the products we just manufactured actually the zip up EVA foam case and all the packaging for them because it just wasn't in their sweet spot. And part of the design brief was to do some fairly innovative packaging for them. And when we finished it, we are like, God, we can make this actually. Like this isn't from a normal packaging firm.
Oh, so you guys are actually making it there in Greenville.
No, 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 no. I just have spent a lifetime of brilliant um, contacts. But like that packaging, we quietly have an employee in Shenzhen. He lives there. He used to work at an injection molding factory that we use all the time. And he's currently managing production of a couple of the components for Block Watch Company, new packaging for Block, three projects for us, and the crazy porcelain Iron Man slash Mandalorian sculpture thing we decided to do. Um, so I never wanted to have a machines, that did all of this stuff.
Right.
You would call us contract manufacturer because we know how to manufacture it.
Got it.
And that's not like an Alibaba email. That's
No, no, no.
understanding what somebody's going to screw up. If you wanted to put fibrous paper on the outside of a corrugated card, that corrugated thickness was designed, and most norms were designed to fold that at a certain amount. But now we want to put this really beautiful, like fibrous, more textured paper on the outside of that. Well, that's going to tear every time you fold it. If that's a flex top, well, it's two layers of paper onto the corrugate now. That's not going to behave as well. All of those things that are just like, yeah, it's fuck, that's fuck, that will work.
Yeah.
Yes, and those are the little moments of every time you've screwed one of those things up, the hope is that it saves you a month with another thing down the road because you've got another learning.
Well, that sort of got that leads me to this question then, because you're a small business, I'm a small business. when do you know it's the right time to fire a manufacturer? Because there's certain points in your history you've obviously needed them more than they've needed you, right? Or is it just kind of a three strikes and you're out philosophy? Or like when do you actually say, look, man, this just isn't working. I got to move on. Or have you ever done that?
I just haven't gone back to them, or have just
Mm.
worked ourselves away from them. I've never had something that moves towards like legal action.
Well, sure, sure. But just kind of like, yo, I can't work with you.
Uh, One human and two producers of things. It's
Yeah.
been rare, but I've had heart to hearts with them, like a manufacturer that done, it was essentially an extension of us, where I basically had to say, listen, we've really helped you grow, but I'm watching our prices, our R&D fees, all of those things like ramp up with that, and do not have as much availability for us. That's great. I'm really proud of you for that. It's also fucking us.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like we've developed your skill set with the challenges that we've given you. I am going to have to do that now with somebody else because I need to know that this bandwidth is safe, you know?
Do you find that you ever have to have that conversation with a manufacturer to where you're like having to convince them to work with you, even though their answer is the quote, this isn't usually how we work, or we don't normally do things like this? And you're kind of, because that's happened to me a few times, and I had to,
And since this is a podcast, I'm not going to answer that. I want to know what your thing is that you're stuck because that's come from somewhere.
100%.
Why are you asking that? Because I'll bet you accidentally could answer your own question. Your volume's not enough, so they're not paying attention to you. They have a larger volume thing comes in that they decide that it's going to. I don't know.
But
I'm curious to your problem.
mine, it was less of a problem and more of just an attitude from that individual, basically questioning my design. Well, why are you doing it this way? And if I were an asshole, I would have replied, well, because I'm paying you to do what I want. And this is your business, is making things for customers, and I'm your customer. So make it the way I want you to. Because you're not unable to make it the way I'm asking. You're just questioning why I'm designing what I'm designing because it's not normal.
So that's really interesting. You are currently making stuff not for the first time, but right, you're in the earlier stage of making stuff. So I'm having to mentally go back now to when we were first making it.
Right, right, fair. Yeah.
That's not going to happen to us as much right now. Where like if you look at a past client list or the types of things that we're executing, or the level of renders that we'll send somebody, or the technical drawings or something, the general reaction with is going to be like, "Oh fuck, all right, this is pretty good." Like, it's good.
Yeah.
And so it's less common for me now. And I now don't put ourselves in a position where we're going to get embarrassed. So Wade, the guy in China, we decided to make these zip up EVA foam cases for all of our small stuff. We just announced it today for all of our small stuff now. We're going to use it as packaging. But we were up front. Wade, here's the shape that we want, but here are a few things. The first order is not going to be more than 500. We could do 1,000 if you wanted. That EVA phone case manufacturer will bitch at you about it. You know that, we know that. So if they do, we don't need to do it. We just want to know if we can do it. Also, if they have something that's in plus minus 10% of this size, a pencil case, a EpiPen case, or like a whatever, have them show it to us. I don't need to make a new tool. At
Right.
that point, you can just go to the material market. You can give them our dope gray melange fabric that we really like and we'll ask them to make it with the black waterproof zipper. And I know they're going to do that. If they make it $2.90 instead of $2.10, they just will. But we'll less often put ourselves in a place to be embarrassed. Now, what Kev and Jeremy would tell you if they were on here is that I'm also far too nice to people and I will work my fucking tail off and try to fix them. And I
Mm.
did that to a crippling intensity when we were first starting this, and I gave certain people months too much time to do things.
Yeah.
And I sat and sanded in my garage in a wet bucket this 150 pieces of carbon, something that was left with a little bit of tab on it from a machining place.
Oh God.
I had carbon in my hands for 6 months, but because I didn't want to tell this guy that, like, not from a fear of conflict, but almost from just trying to get the best out of people.
Hmm.
My wife will criticize me on it. It's like she's like, Neil, at some point in time you have to tell that person, like, yo, this is fucked. Like, fix this.
Right.
I just try to get the best out of them, I think. And it's a weakness.
Sure. Well, I was just about to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure?
Yeah, financially or humanly. Um, uh, so my biggest weakness, I'll do that first, is also my superpower. And I
Hmm.
learned this recently from a therapist. PhD people have a lack of boundaries. That's a challenging thing in a relationship. You're not really like, you just, blah, everything. It's just you have a lack of boundaries. It's also the superpower of being creative. In that I'm game for a 50-foot thing or a 3-inch thing.
Hmm.
Aim to take the pen line of a beautiful knife and assume that it can be the hull of a yacht or anything like that. I don't have boundaries. It's also probably the biggest weakness from our business is that nobody really knows what we do. So we're not a company, a corporate gifting company, a bespoke furniture company, an ID firm, a packaging firm. Right? We're just not we just do. So that's probably my biggest weakness is the fact that we are in many ways undefined, and it was kind of cute to begin with, and now it's probably the thing that's hurting us is that people don't
Hmm.
really know what to come to us for.
Interesting.
Um, Biggest failure, probably just that when I've been hyper focused on something, I miss something else happening. And we work so much on the kids watch company that I probably didn't watch enough to do with the changing economy and the fear that startups had with like SVB collapse and all those different things. I'm immensely strategic when I give myself the bandwidth, and I didn't put things in place for that. And we're kind of playing a bit of catch up now with the whole focus on Discommon goods.
Right. Yeah, I identify with that wholeheartedly, which I've
Financial
never.
failure. I made a mistake once on a project, and it cost us like I think 75,000 bucks.
Oh my God.
That was a wee bit painful.
Did that disrupt the whole thing, or were you able to come back from that and finish the project?
Got a phone call, woke me up at 3 a.m. We lived in California at the time, and I was on a plane to London that morning. And we just started fixing it. My view on problems is that the biggest, even the grandest problem is just a series of smaller problems that need solved beautifully. And I can break big stuff. Dude, we landed a Boeing Dreamliner in Greenville Spartanburg Airport. Like that was a series of problems. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
um, so I'm not overwhelmed by that stuff, but
Yeah.
that stung.
Yeah. 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 I ask a lot of people this question, but how has fatherhood changed you?
Um, I did a entrepreneur dad podcast, and um, recently the biggest change has been the realization. This is going to be a duh to some people, but it depends on your demons. But the realization that I have value out with what I bring, work wise. If
Hmm.
you're an entrepreneur, you can often be defined by the thing that you're doing. I am Discommon. And fatherhood makes you realize that like there's just like undoting love for you that doesn't need anything more than for you to be you.
Mm.
Uh, and that's been a pretty dope realization of just self-worth, that is
That's
not
cool.
defined by what I make or provide or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably one of the best things, but it also instills the fear of, my wife stay at home, and uh, I'm the provider.
Yeah.
So I
For
got to
sure.
keep providing.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have these remarkable moments when you realize, and I don't do it as much anymore. It's a constant battle to improve, but like your kid knows if you're staring at your phone. Like your
Right.
kid knows if you're not present, if you're not there. Like, and then you reap the benefits of if you turn your phone off and they know you're not on your phone. Those types of things. Um,
Yeah. That's nice.
I probably could have had somebody pick up the kids today when I messaged you to say we had to do the podcast a bit later, but I'm just not going to.
Right. No, it's beautiful.
I value this and I value my
Yeah.
work. told you were doing a podcast, but when I had to pick up the kids, I'm picking up the kids. Like that is, it is more important.
Yeah, no, totally. Couldn't agree more.
Are you a father?
Not yet, which is partially why I ask this question.
I'm just completely blanked on the name of the podcast, but it was. I'll find it and I'll send it to you afterwards. But
Sure.
I listen to this and give me shit for forgetting it. But
Yeah.
he's done a great job with this podcast. He talks to entrepreneurial dads and asks them about life, and balance and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you
That's
never get
cool.
to. I don't know that you ever get to be balanced. I think the people that talk about balance and share that they've got it, they're full of shit.
Right.
Like at some point in time, they're still. I can put my kids to bed. I'll fall asleep in my daughter's bed. I'll wake up. Oh fuck! It's 9:30, and off I go back to the office because I realize that China's awake and somebody's going to be asking questions. And like, all right. Well,
Well,
I've tell you, I've had a really because there will be other dads, I suppose, that listen to this. I've had a really interesting past couple of days. My wife went down to Charleston with her girl gang to talk about some actual business stuff that they're planning on doing. And they're going to build a girl version of our headquarters here, like a place where women could do dope creative stuff. And this time it was going to,
oh,
I
that's
really hope we
cool.
do it. But I then had to move on to full single dad mode. Two school drop offs, kid picks up at 2, at 3. And I was like, my work week's going to be fucked. And it is. But also, just knowing that I had to do it was immensely relaxing in some ways as well, because like it is more important than the work. Therefore, it was going to get done, and it didn't have to make it that stressful because it's just a necessity. And it's actually been when my wife, I haven't even spoken to her yet, but she's gonna want to kill me for this. I've loved the last 3 days. She probably wants me to be exhausted and absolutely wiped and be like, oh, this is such a hard job.
Right.
Hard. There was drama. My daughter and I forgot, she's 8. We forgot her homework and we didn't start doing vocabulary until 9 o'clock last night. My wife would have murdered me at that. But like we came up with a dope plan of how to do the vocabulary and we set out all of her school stuff beforehand. She got to sleep in a little bit more this morning. And it was enjoyable being part of that. But but none of that, dude, comes without these demons of like I want to say to my wife, like, I fuck it, I want to work less. I want to do more time with these kids. But at some point in time, you have the demon of like, I'm in the wave.
Yeah.
I am in a wave and I am running from it.
Right, right, right.
So that's also just an interesting reality.
Sure. That sounds really cool, having like a female aspect to the office with the
So if they can knock
female-centric
out the
swing.
business plan and they can figure out the plan to make it monetized. But we had an event here last week where we just allowed people into the open space. It's Lucid, the car company, rented it.
Oh, cool.
It paid the month's um, mortgage, and I was like, 1 month? Maybe do that. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's here. Just put some old race cars and set up some tables, and we've already got a bar. Like, oh shit, okay. But I think they would develop this sort of safe space for women to do like, if my wife wanted to have a dinner at the house, she'd have to get the kids to bed, have to tidy everything. There's just the stress of feeling that like your house is done. So like if they could have sort of like a 50 woman membership, they could have a yoga space, all of that kind of stuff, and essentially have this safe zone, which is this is a man cave basically where we all work
Right.
in faith. So I
Yeah.
think it's fascinating.
So we got to talk cars for a little bit. What was your first car ever?
A raspberry red, aka pink. It was about the color of that hip flask. Skoda Felicia, 1.3 liter, 16 valve fuel injected.
Nice.
That my parents paid 2,000 of the $6,000 pounds for because it had an airbag. They gave me an airbag bonus uh, because it had an airbag.
Amazing.
My friend at the time walked up and I wanted to show him my new red car that I had put a chicken wire grill in the front of. I cut out the plastic slats, sanded them all flush in the grill, and we put chicken wire in because it was cool to have a steel mesh grill. And he was like, "Oh, shit, man, it's pink." I was like, "It's not pink, it's raspberry red." And he's like, "Man, the car's pink." And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, kind of is pink, isn't it?" So that was my first car.
What's the daily now?
Rivian truck. Drive it all the time. Adore it. Best car I've ever owned. Um, I thought my wife's Defender was the best car we'd ever owned, and then I got the Rivian, and it's pretty exceptional.
Yeah.
Um, Car regrets. I might be better at these questions than you. I'll give you car regret. And there's no regrets, but car regrets. Never managed to take full ownership of a 29 Ford Roadster that my friend at Oakley, Nick, had built. I almost bought it twice, never did. Never managed to buy a hot rod that a good friend of mine's, sorry, a 911 hot rod, a 70s 911 hot rod that a friend spent 5 years building. And I decided that 75 grand was too much for it. It's probably 150 grand now, but it was exceptionally done.
Right.
Those are regrets. High points, I daily drove an aerial atom for about 11 months in California. That was my daily.
Really?
I've done everything humanly possible in an aerial atom. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That went when we got our first house. And I think the 430 Scuderia, that'll be the grumpy old man fireplace, the whiskey thing when that car is like 2.9 million. And I had one of those. I sold it when it was blah, blah, blah,
Right.
That'll be the one I bet you I look back on like I screwed up.
Okay, so I'm not talking function here, but in your opinion, because both of us athletes, as I like to say, um, best looking designed car of all time, in your opinion.
Oh, shit.
Doesn't matter if it worked like shit, but looked the best, or maybe it was the best performing car ever.
So uh, I'm not going to give you a straight answer because um, I've recently sadly come to the realization from a lot of very fortunate experience that the F40 is complete shit in comparison to an F50. The F50 is an exemplary vehicle. Many people don't even know, for instance, that it was one of the first iterations of a first gear, like a Carrera GT, that you don't put the throttle down, you just let the clutch out in first gear and the car starts driving. And we did the Millimiglia in a dialed F50, and it is an astounding vehicle. And the F40 is a fucking tractor next to it. But I do, in many ways, as flawed a design as an F40 is, it is one of the most purpose stating designs to me ever done. So you have all the beautiful sort of 30s, 40s, 50s coachwork stuff, all the old Alphas, the Maseratis, the bird cages, P3, P4s, all of these things that are just like achingly beautiful.
Yeah.
But an F40, like, is it mostly guys that listen to this? But F40 walked in with big balls swinging.
Right.
I got a huge fucking wing. I've got a slab front. Like, I got an awkward driving position and I've got turbos. So it's one of the most iconic designs for me. Um, my dear friend Shashi has a Eagle lightweight Jag, what is essentially an E-Type. And in his pretty astonishing collection, that and the Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato, I spend a lot of time staring at.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly, because I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, I'm mostly drawn to ones that somewhat state their function by their design. So I'm less drawn to all of the sort of beauty icons that people would talk about, the any of the Italian coachwork houses from the sort of 50s and or earlier. Yeah, I think they're beautiful, but they state their purpose less.
Yeah, that's well said, actually. I've never really thought about it in those terms, I guess. How your design speaks to your function. I think it's maybe just a subconscious or like to your point, right? Like those that do it well and Bob's your uncle, as you say.
We're two mechanical engineers and one
Yeah.
industrial designer that we basically tried to mold Kev into a mechanical engineer.
Right.
Like ergonomics and the functionality side of things is always something that's been at a four for me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So you're a big watch guy. What do you have on wrist right now? It looked like a tag
it is. Yeah, I
or a
was
Hoyer or
quite
something.
an interesting one. I haven't a little out of touch with vintage watches just now a little bit, but this is a late 60s. I normally would have known the number 1163 maybe. Manual wine Carrera.
Oh, is that an orange second hand?
Yeah, all stock. I've modified some, but this is all stock. This is a beautiful. It's an almost like a off navy sort of grayish, like a cold steelish main dial. And the orange second hand with stock on it.
It's gorgeous.
I do. I do have a love affair with the vintage stuff. Uh, I won't end up finding it because, like I mentioned, I hid all of the expensive stuff for the event. But there's a pretty cool Heuer Atavia dash timer that I just had restored that sits here somewhere, which I should probably find. But yeah, so there's vintage Heuers. I'm a little bit less like that chapter, I suppose, is just so my friend James Marks, who works for Philips. He's a really dear friend of Jean-Claude Biver's, and he's very, very deep into the watch world. I remember him explaining to me the chapters of watch collecting, which is interest, amassing, purging, icons. um, so I have certain things, my grandfather's watch. My dad gave me this for my 30th birthday.
Oh, cool.
I had it restored after that, but there are certain ones that I'll never get rid of. But I'm also have purged massively because the end goal is um, probably a 25th anniversary Lang& Zone
Oh,
Lang& One.
yeah,
The 25th anniversary had blue hands, and it's almost impossible to find. Or I adore Max Busser's work at MB&F.
yeah. Do you know Max?
Yeah, yeah, I do. We haven't spoken in the last 6 months, but I know each other. We know each other well. We used to have mandates at Basel Watch Fair where we used to just go for a steak in like this low key little steak restaurant to go away from all the madness. But I'm very, very fond of him and inspired by him.
He's one of my favorite podcasts that I've hosted him on. Like it was
I didn't
that
know he'd done
episode's
one with
great.
you. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I'm hugely fond of him.
Same.
Both his kids have block watches.
Oh, cool.
We've talked everything from cars to design to um, you know, I don't know that we'll ever work together on something. Maybe in a sense, we're in some ways too close with the way that we approach things.
Hmm.
Do sort of mechanical intricacies on stuff.
Right.
He wouldn't lust after our things for a mad gallery because our stuff doesn't move. That's something that
Right.
drives him.
Movement. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about Block aside from the fact that, you're, I guess, co-owner, right? Of that.
yeah, co-founder.
Um, how did that come about exactly? Because it's targeted at kids, right? So is that you being a father thinking about what watch to buy for your kid?
My wife bringing up it started not as block. It started as like there's no fun stuff for your son. There's no really cool accessories. You can put a kid in like a shirt and a little bow tie, but a daughter has endless things. She has the kid version of all adult things, and there were no real short of flick flack. There were no kids watches or anything like that. And we were initially talking about doing a China company that knocked off Hublots, APs, Rolexes as
Right.
like 34 millimeters, like nod to them, which I still think about often.
Right.
It's like there's definite integrity questions in there, but I still
Right.
think it's sick if you had a mini little GMT that was in steel, and just made in China, like $49, something along those lines,
Yeah. Brilliant.
less purpose driven. And then we started talking about the realizations of like that time is difficult for kids and time management and all of those things. And I met my business partner, James, on a drive in Italy. He was the head of global investments for JP Morgan Chase. So he's had a mega job before. Like he's started thousands of companies, but from a standpoint of funding them, via the company. But he is the exact opposite of me, but we have these cool loves of watches, cars, that type of thing. But a brilliant partner to have because we're yin and yang in many senses. And then like all of the purpose came for Block of the blocks of time, wanting to do it Swiss made, something we still battle with because it adds so much to the price of it.
Sure.
Are we a function based watch where we could have just done the timer blocks in an Asia made brand? Or are we sticking to our guns, which we chose to, of like being passionate about the Swiss watch industry and wanting to be a part of that?
Yeah. Well, the bezel's wonderful, right? So like that's a major function, quite literally, of the watch and telling time and time blocks. Can you explain a little bit how it works and how it's designed since we're an audio format?
they're all 30 feet away from me.
No, no worries.
I have one sitting at my desk, but the idea was that so like not a Carrera, but a lot of the vintage race watches that I'm into obviously have a tachometer bezel, so the like a rotating bezel to time. And I realized that a kid doesn't need to know that it's 6:27, 6:42, whatever. They need to know where we are at generally, right? So really the only important thing actually is the hour block. So that came the dial of the block watch, instead of having 12 on the top index, then 1, 2, 3, 4, has hour blocks. So the 12 is offset and it's in a block. So the hour hand is now just sweeping through the number 12 for the whole hour. So even a 4-year-old can glance and be like 12 something if they know their numbers. So now you've made the hour easy. So that's a good start. Like they at least know it's an hour in the afternoon. And then we talked about a timer function. It was maybe a 60-minute timer or whatever. And then I realized what would be much better is if they could just have 4 generic timers. And I was like, 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, that doesn't add up to 60, 5, 10, 15, 30. All right. So what if we split the bezel into a 5-minute block, 10-minute block, 15-minute block, and a 30-minute block? And a lot of questions were asked by people initially. Is this a timer? Does this rotate? Like, is this automatic? Nope, it's fully manual. But it's simply the simple art of clicking around the start of the 15 block where it says 15 to the minutes hand. And you just tell your kid, now just watch it. When it gets to the end of that block, 15 minutes is up, dinner's ready.
Genius.
And it's very elemental. But my gosh, has it been difficult because we're making a Swiss watch.
Right, right.
And everybody looks at that as a small thing. Do you know how many suppliers there are in that? Like crown, seals, sapphire, crystal, strap backing material, strap leather, strap packaging insert, watch assembly factory, movement factory, case factory, bezel insert, loom, paint. Like it is mammoth. Now you could just go to a Hong Kong aggregator and give them your design and let them make it.
Right.
But a couple of reasons that was against that was um, we wouldn't really have owned our supply chain if we did that. It, I actually don't have enough energy to go through how difficult block was. Like it's hard for me to relive it.
Right.
And the hardest part is that we're at 179 price, $179 price point. Next week we're about to announce an $89 price point on one.
Oh, cool.
And but we everybody that's purchased the watch is a fan of the watch. That's good. We make a product that people want. But a lot of people won't purchase the watch because it's $179. And they're like, holy shit, like a kid's watch is $29. Well,
Sure.
not a 100-meter screw down crown, sapphire crystal, 10-year battery life, ETA movement. No, that's actually a $550 adult's watch that we're selling for 179 bucks.
Right.
That's a tough story to tell. And we did not take enough money to tell that story with force.
Mm.
So now we're having to tell it with time, with just allowing it to build and sell and grow. Because the amount of money you would have had to spend to do the horsepower to define a new market, I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
My skill set is making it real.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, but that's been a big learning. I look at it just now with fondness, but exhaustion. We have completed the engineering of what we call BK37, which is a 37 millimeter adult watch,
Mm.
which will definitely be fun from a standpoint of like adults can wear a fun plastic watch. So you can buy a 2-pack, father, son, mother, daughter, whatever.
Cool.
Also, there's a bit of not many people have been mugged for an MB&F or an Urwork because they're so obscure, but there is Milan, Paris, Rio, London. Like there are huge issues with watch crime right now, and a lot of people
Sure.
move stuff like moon swatches or even flick flacks and things just for fun.
Right.
So, but it's tough building something, and that has given me monumentally more respect for the VCs and for the startups that we work with as a design firm.
Sure.
And I've talked more than a few people out of doing something now, not because I haven't enjoyed it, but because I've been like, you can't. That's great. I love that idea. Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. You don't even sell it on me. It's a brilliant idea. Where the fuck are you getting your $4 million from to make anybody else know that this exists?
Right. Right.
I've had that question a couple times. We can do, we're going to bootstrap it. You're going to fuck it up. Like statistically, you are. Now you
Right.
might not like the Halo thing that works, and lo and behold, 3 months into this, you get a contract with Target, and you're jamming. But like statistically, this is too hard for you to do.
Right. Right.
um, Please don't stop being a doctor to do that or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Either go down the road of getting investment, go down the road of Kickstarter, or like this is we're in a world where so much money is spent on digital based ads that you can't make a new thing be seen easily.
Right. No, trust me, I'm well aware.
Massive funding and or the whole influencer world is obviously a wild one, but I look at friends of mine in the space like Ted Gashu, who I don't know if you've had him on, Riley Harper, Life of Riley. These guys are sitting on successful companies if they put the amount of time in. Like if Riley released a clothing line, he's got 300,000 followers on Instagram who like believe in his lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a percentage game. It's why every celebrity on the planet starts businesses because they already have an audience.
I had a relationship with some folks to do with Ryan Reynolds back when I was doing whiskey stuff, and I just think now, the kids that they have, like, probably should have offered up 10% of block from day one to somebody like that. They could have become a champion for it.
Well, he's cashing in every 6 months or so, right? Like, I mean,
So the entire different way. Like The Rock has watches for both of his kids. If he had posted about it, we probably would have done $1 million of revenue in a month. Like
yeah, it's a lot of people come to me and say, Wesley, I'm thinking about starting a clothing brand, and I say two things. One, don't do it, or I tell them, great, go build an audience doing anything else.
yeah.
I mean, that's my advice. Go find some way. I don't know how you're gonna do it. I'm not you. You figure it out. But go create an audience. It's the hardest thing for me to do, man. Is market my product even, because like my marketing budget is null and void. That's why I do. That's why I started doing all these like pop ups and stuff because like you, I make a little to make some more to sell some more to make a little bit more to sell some more, and it's just moving this ball down the pitch by inch by inch. you know.
Well, I'm sitting looking at, I essentially mentored the Parnham boys out of school, and they're very interesting now, different business to mine because when somebody comes to, and this is one of the things that, funnily enough, the kids you mentor, like you then take accidental advice from them. When they speak to a potential client, 2 years ago, that client worked with us.
Right.
They're so far down the road that they need the Parnham guys at that exact moment. And
Hmm.
their deliverable can be done 4 weeks after that first call.
Right.
Holy shit, like I want that business model. We are the biggest possible risk. They are a necessity at that exact instant, right? And they deliver well. But one of the things that we've been all brainstorming quite a lot recently is we've done now virality with something. We made something go viral. So, my goodness, shouldn't we probably be playing with a drop ship clothing company, something like that? Simply knowing that content wise, we could actually get it out there, or we could at least try.
Yeah.
And where they might bill out, $100,000 for a video now, we don't have to have that fee, but we could have a go at making something viral if we're passionate about it.
Right.
But again, Wes, like this is not my world, man. I just want to make stuff real, and I'm already got the nerves of um, if we really commit down this Discommon goods road, like son of a gun, I'm gonna have to get an ad agency. I'm gonna have to get a
Right.
whatever. Like I'm gonna have to do all those things again that I don't like doing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time and your candor. This has been,
I am
uh,
candid. I am
yeah,
just straight up candid. I go for that.
same, which is, I think it's a through line for, honesty is the best policy. So,
Yeah,
I really,
I think it's important that we all say that we're very fortunate to get the things that we do, but also coming at 40, I feel like I owe it to some of the youth, now to be like, yo, this isn't just like horses and fun shit, you know? I
totally.
worked 19 hours a day during COVID, moving medical goods that we were actually manufacturing, and yeah, it allowed me to buy a building and a Porsche.
Right. Well, I
19
mean,
hours a day.
again, that's kind of what these episodes are all about. It's, IG is nothing but the highlight reel,
Yeah.
Well, Neil, thanks, man. I
Yeah,
really
cheers, dude.
appreciate
That
it.
was it was great fun speaking. Thank you for allowing me to wander through those different topics.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of these days when I'm home in North Carolina, I gotta hop in the car and come see you and high five you at least.
Well, I mentioned to you, we've got some weird crossover between some guy that's a Leica broker dealer guy or something, and knows Aaron who just walked by and left. But I'm sitting in this conversation with them months ago, and they're like, "Oh, we got this buddy of ours does this thing standard H," and I was like,
What?
I thought, "Oh shit, I owe him a podcast."
No, it's all good,
That's how
man.
that conversation went.
Well, that's honestly like that's happened more than I can think of, and that's why I'm not stressed. I'm like it'll happen in due time. Like,
I feel really guilty that Max did it before me.
oh shit, don't even no, don't for a second. No,
I
this
about
is great.
WhatsApp and tell him to do it. So
Yeah, no, please yeah, please, if you haven't heard that episode, it's great.
we'll do it. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up my phone and just take a picture of my phone. No, my phone's dead. That's what ADHD does.
Oh, that's cool.
I should have just
Yeah.
lied and told you that I turned it off to be a good
Right.
sport.
Like I'm your child. I recognize it. Neil, thanks, man. This is awesome.
Pour a Negroni and yeah,
Love it.
California, and talk to you soon.
Okay, buddy.
Cheers, Wes. Thanks a lot.
Okay. This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.